morning and welcome to another episode of Real Estate Real Talk, where we give you the real tea on DXB Realty. This episode is dedicated to you as a first-time investor and is going to cover everything that you need to know before making that first investment. We're going to cover how to qualify your broker, how to qualify the developer that you're buying from, how to best manage your risks, and the perfect entry and exit strategy. And we're going to wrap up with some common market practices that you should be aware of before making this first investment. So let's get right to it. There's a lot of trainings on agencies and generally in the real estate market for brokers on how to qualify their clients. And I do agree that it's very important and very crucial. However, no one speaks about the importance of clients qualifying their brokers. Ask the hard questions. Ask them to show you their trade license, their ORN certificate. Ask them if they have done this before. Ask them what their advice is based off of. What are the facts? What are the numbers that they're basing this off? Listen to their reasonings, listen to their body language, look at their eyes, and trust your gut feeling on whether this is someone you can trust with such an investment, especially one as sensitive as a first time, or you need to go qualify someone else. If they meet all these criteria, the next step is you also have a responsibility to be very clear on the situation that you're in. You have to be very honest and transparent about your appetite, about your timeline, when you're looking to make this investment, what are you looking to make out of this investment? Because at the end of the day, this helps you. This helps the broker help you, right? So it helps the broker to give you the right advice. It helps them to understand exactly what is the perfect match for you based on your requirements. So it's very important to be very transparent about your broker. Your budget or your appetite, say it like it is. Say, I want to pay this much. I can go up to 10% maximum, but I wouldn't prefer that. I would like to stick to this budget. Some people actually have noticed, which is very interesting, they up their budget. They give me a number that's bigger than what they're actually willing to pay. And some people go very down. So once you've established that trust, that foundation of trust, which is the heart of every business relationship, be clear about it, about your expectations, your returns, everything the broker needs to know in order to be able to help you. So help him help you, basically. After qualifying your broker, the next step is qualifying the developer. You being a first-time investor, the assumption I'm making is that this investment will be off plan, since it is the best investment you can make, especially as a first-time buyer with the flexible payment plans and all the privileges that get offered, which are things we dive into more in our other episodes. But with the assumption that you're buying an off-plan property, qualify the developer. Now, essentially, this is the job of the broker, but I also firmly believe that you as a first-time investor or clients in generally also need to do their due diligence, because humans have blind spots. And as long as you trust your broker, this is something you can present to them and ask them to look further into it. The best way to vet the developer is by seeing who is the contractor that's building this certain project that you're interested to buy. And I'm saying this certain project because there's different contractors for different projects when it comes to developers. Who is the developer? The developer is simply the person with the money who's bringing all the parties together and making this happen. They're not necessarily the contractor or the builder that's building this project. Now, that's not always the case. Some developers are backward integrated, which means that the contractors are in-house, but the more common practice is that the contractors are third party. So it's very important to know who is the builder of this project, not just the developer, because the builder determines the quality, right? Quality sells. There's no other way to put it. With the new rule by RERA, which is that apartments, rentals will not only be determined by location, but will also be determined by quality. It's more important now than ever. Quality, first of all, guarantees longevity of the project, of the investment, if you're a holder, of course, which we'll get into later. And now with this new rule, it guarantees that you make a high ROI, since the rental index will be calculated based off of the quality as well. The second thing you can do to qualify the developer is check Google reviews. Go on Google, write the developer's name, see what people are saying. It helps you have an understanding about the level of customer service they have, which is also important, especially if you're a holder, meaning you're going to wait until handover to rent out the unit because you will be in contact with them for a longer time. Check other clients' experiences, etc., etc. Very simple, very straightforward. Get the Google reviews. The third point, or the third way to qualify your developer, is checking previous buildings that they have delivered already. Go talk to the security. Ask him what is the rental. Go on Property Finder, which by the way is the portal, Property Finder and Bayut. These are the two main portals for all real estate listings in Dubai, whether it's sales or rentals or land, commercial, anything. Go on Property Finder, write the name of the building that you found the developer has delivered before, and check the rental prices. How are their previous projects performing? Go on Google, write the name of the building, and check the reviews. Check if there's complaints about maintenance, if there's leakages, if an investor is putting a review about how a property management held his property and wouldn't let him make the ROI. These are all things you need to be aware of before making this investment. Now, what if the developer never delivered before? Correct. And a developer that didn't deliver before is not necessarily a bad investment. It could be, but it's not. And it's a higher risk, which takes us to our next point, risk management. But before we go there, if the developer didn't deliver before, go back to point number 1 or 2, I'm not sure. Check the contractor that's building the project and check buildings that were built by that contractor, because they're more likely to be, give or take, the same. Now, that way you minimize your risk and you're kind of taking a chance in the customer experience and the admin department more than in the quality of the build-up, because you're aware what contractor X offers. But again, I'm confirming that a new developer or a first-time developer is not necessarily a bad investment. We've actually had a lot of success stories with first-time developers, and the best example for that is actually Ellington, right? When Ellington was first building, people who bought in the initial projects took a risk. They took a risk. They didn't know this was the quality they were gonna get. They didn't know this was the ROI they're gonna get. I could set an example by Shoba as well, but it's different with Shoba because Shoba is a contractor. Shoba already built one of the most expensive districts in town, so when they started as a developer, people were already waiting for that. I'm setting an example by Ellington because when they first started developing, no one knew them. And people who made a purchase with Ellington made incredible ROIs. They saw incredible capital appreciation. Bulgravia 1, 2, and Heights in JVC, until today, they stand as the highest rental in JVC. And these are one of their initial projects. This is just to confirm to you that a first-time developer is not necessarily a bad investment. But it's a double-edged sword. Now, there's the great case scenario, which is the developer wants to mark their territory. They're trying to prove their name, so they're offering premium quality with lower than market prices. And you won the jackpot, you won the lottery in that case. And there's the other side, which is the developer is here for the quick hit and run, just heard about the fuss in Dubai and decided to join, is offering okay prices, because usually first-time developers have reasonable prices, but the quality is not up to par. The building that you're going to have delivered will have maintenance issues, leakage issues, which again takes us back to know your contractor. The contractor is the heart of your investment because they determine pretty much everything. Investing in a first-time developer is a risk, right? It is a higher risk than taking a reputable name, for example, which takes us to our next point, which is risk management. How to manage your risk and how to ensure that you're aware of what you're getting yourself into. Because I've met tons of people who made an investment with an assumption that was far from reality. And again, all these points I've mentioned are so integrated into each other, because this also comes down to not qualifying your broker, right? And not qualifying the developer and everything basically that we've mentioned. So when it comes to risk management, the most important part is that you as an investor identify yourself. Are you willing to take the risk, or do you want minimal risk? For me personally, I always suggest and advise my first time investors to take minimal risk, but that's something we'll get into later. Are you a flipper? Are you a holder? Do you want to buy this property for passive income and ROI, or do you want to buy it to sell it back into the market and make, premium or capital appreciation? So knowing exactly what your objective is from this purchase will allow you to really navigate the risk factor in it. And it takes us back again to being very clear with your agent, because that is our game, right? That's what we're specialized in. That's how we're experts, and that's how we're going to offer you value after understanding what is your exact objective and giving you the perfect match for it. It's also important to understand your entry and exit strategy. How long are you willing to keep this money working, or when do you want to liquidate it into income and maybe make another investment? So my suggestion and my advice is to always start small. I always encourage first-time investors to consider this first investment as just a reassurance process, to understand how the market goes, to basically know what to expect, right? Buying an off-plan property, 9 times out of 10, you'll have to put 20% as a down payment. Now, when other than the 4% DLD, which is fees that are payable for the purchase of any property in Dubai, whether it's secondary market or primary market or commercial, it's a one-time payment addressed directly to Dubai Land Department, and it's 4% of the value of the property. So other than that, you have 20% that you put down. Some developers give you 10% and then in a month 10%. But essentially, you have to have 20% down in order to receive your SPA, which is your sales and purchase agreement, which helps you, or you need that to generate your uqud certificate, which is technically the title deed for off-plan properties. I want to buy an off-plan property and I want to sell it back to the market. When can I sell it back to the market? There is no law from Dubai Land Department in terms of when you can sell. As long as your uqud is there, your SPA is there, legally speaking, you're allowed to sell it back to the market. However, it's the developer that decides at what payment stage will they allow you, or will they give you the NOC, which is the non-objection certificate, to sell the property. There's some developers that only give the NOC after 40%, some after 20%. I would say the average allowed payment stage to resell your property is 30%. However, if your broker has good relationship with the developer, if they've managed to establish a foundation of healthy business, good faith, then they can actually negotiate to give you an NOC for lower. But do you really need that? Do you really need an NOC to be able to sell back at 20% or at 30%? Now, 7 out of 10 brokers sell off plan with the impression, or giving the investor the impression, that they can sell it back like this and make money. I think this is very misguided and very misleading. Think about it logically. You buy a property and you're at 30% payment stage, which is say 6 to 8 months after the purchase of this property. You're selling it to someone, and ideally as an investor, you're targeting an end user, because end users are the ones that can pay market price, whereas another investor will want to negotiate and lower their capital to increase their premium, right? You're targeting an end user. 8 months after buying this property, the handover was 2 years ahead, now it's 1.5 years ahead, or it was 3 years ahead, now it's just 2.5 years ahead. It's still off plan, it's still under construction, and the developer still has other projects that they're launching. And if not this developer, another developer that matches the quality has other projects to sell. Do you really think, just logically speaking, an end user would be interested in paying 30% down payment instead of 10% or 20%? 30% down payment plus 4% DLD fee, and then still waiting for 2.5 years plus premium, which is your profit? I think it's very misguiding, like I said, and misleading to go with the impression, this takes us back to managing your expectations, to go with the impression that you're going to buy this and sell it in 8 months. And I've seen stories like this so many times where clients call me who've had this experience with another broker, and they're like, we're supposed to be selling by now. And unfortunately, they would have financed or budgeted themselves according to only paying for these 8 months, because the broker told them it's guaranteed that they're going to sell, and the next payment is coming up and they don't know how they're going to make that payment because they thought they were going to sell at a premium, and they're not getting any offers simply because it's not realistic. Me as an end user, if I want to go buy a property to live in, I will not go look at someone who's already bought 8 months ago, pay them 30% plus their premium plus 4%, and still go with a payment plan and wait for a handover. It simply does not make sense. Do off plan appreciate? Yes, 100%, a lot. We're looking at 30% up until handover. The most realistic time to sell your off plan property is 6 months before handover, on handover, or 6 months after, when word is out on the town that this building is great, the amenities are amazing, people are talking about it, it's still brand new, you're still selling a brand new apartment, you've Airbnb'd it for these 6 months, which we can do for you, by the way, and you've made some money out of it, and it's still, like I said, brand new. So this 1 year window is the perfect time to sell your property, and the perfect time to see the numbers that broker X promised you when you first purchased that property 8 months later, right? So this 1 year, realistically, is, I don't want to say the only, but the best time to sell your property. And with that being said, you need to finance yourself or budget yourself with the assumption or with the expectation that you're going to pay full up until handover. If there's no post-handover payment plan, which comes with certain developers, you can still pay after handover for 2 years or 1.5 years. If there's no post-handover payment plan, you need to make sure that you're going to be able to fund this property in full. Unless you are eligible for a mortgage, and then you can cover the handover payment with a bank. And I'm saying the handover payment because banks will not cover or will not give you a mortgage for a property that is under construction. The one requirement for banks is, other than of course your eligibility, is that the building is 80% completed. 80% completed means it's at the stage of snagging and the little final stuff. It's there, the building is there, we can see it, it's done, it's finalized. If the building is 80% completed, then the bank can mortgage you, which is by handover. And some clients get lucky, actually. We've managed to get them even the pre-handover payment, the last payment right before the handover, because it's usually like 2 months before or 3 months before. We speak to the developer and manage to include it into the mortgage price. So my point is, you need to make sure you have the funds, whether it's mortgage or cash or whatever. You need to make sure you have the full funds to complete this payment in the span of 1 or 2 years. Because unfortunately, going with this assumption of I'm going to sell in 8 months and financing yourself for only these 8 months payment, you're going to be late on your other payments, and you will either get hefty late payment fees or your property will be canceled and your money will be lost, which of course no one wants to do. And it's very important for you as a first-time investor to understand that the developer does have the right to terminate your property and give you minimal, if no, refunds if you're stuck on the payments in the middle. So you need to make sure that you finance yourself completely. Even if it's projected money that's guaranteed to come to you, you're able to cover all the payments within this time span up until handover. So the perfect time to enter, like I said, the perfect time to exit is in this 1 year window, 6 months before on handover and 6 months after. The best time to enter an off-plan property, which is my favorite game, is at pre-launch phase. Developer X today is launching a project. Before they launch this project officially, they call their partners, which is us, the brokers, and they tell them, hey, by the way, we have a project coming up in 2 months or 3 months or sometimes even 4 months. And we don't have the exact details of it yet, but it's going to be consisting of 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. It's going to be X number of floors. The expected layout space is this much, and the expected price is this much. So we have a general idea, and we have, of course, the exact location because the land is secured. It's just a matter of paperwork with DLD. So we have all this information. We start speaking to our clients or investors about them, and we put what is known as an EOI, which is an expression of interest. So this is a check usually averaging at 50K for apartments or 150K for villas. We take this check, we put it with us, we send a picture to the developer with the passport picture of the client, and we're interested in having priority of booking on launch day. Okay. when the product does get launched 2 to 3 months later, it gets launched at 15%, 10 to 15% higher than the price that we got for our investors at pre-launch phase. So it's like early bird gets the worm, right? So you're racking up on your capital appreciation because you came before everyone and you booked before the project was even launched. You didn't book, you put a check. Now, why did I say you didn't book? Because this check EOI is fully refundable. We keep our EOIs. Some people, yes, they give it to the developers, but we keep our EOIs. We only send pictures of them. And even if we were to give them to the developers, they don't have the right to cash them in. So launch day comes, I give you a call. I'm like, hey, Ahmed, here it's launched. The price you got is 600. The price today is 620 on launch day. This is the exact layout, because we didn't know that. This is the exact layout, the exact view. This is the apartment number. This is the brochure. Here, take a look at it. Do you want to go ahead or no? Wallah, Duha, no, I don't want to go ahead. You get your check back. Yes, I want to go ahead. You get priority of booking. You get the premium units, and you get 15% lower than launch day. Launch day is, like I said, 10 to 15% higher, and then most projects in Dubai get launched in phases, meaning phase 1 is sold out, then they launch phase 2, then they launch phase 3. So from each phase to the other, we still have an 8 to 10% increase from the developer, which means that earlier you are, basically the higher chances you have at making money. Just like I said, you put an EOI while the developer is finalizing their agreements with DLD, and usually that's at the point where the escrow account is still not released from DLD. And what is an escrow account? Escrow account, I like to explain it to my clients as extra account. It's a third-party bank account held by DLD where your funds go to. So the developer does not actually have access to this money that you're paying until they deliver the project. They do have access to a certain percentage at 50% completion, and they can only use this money for marketing purposes. They can't include it in their capital for building the project. That's just to confirm to you that you're completely protected when it comes to your investments, and that's why we have people making transactions through links. People all over the world, we're doing video calls, we're sending a link, they pay. Now, how do you know if this is an escrow account or this is the developer's account? The escrow account is under the name of the building, the project. For example, Leo's, which is a developer that I really love and work very closely with, Leo's has a project called Cavendish Square in JVC. An escrow account would be Cavendish Square Leo's Development. A non-escrow account would be Leo's Development LLC. You send the 4% DLD straight to the corporate account, but every other payment that is related to your purchase is sent to the escrow account. Thank you for joining me today. Inshallah, I hope you have gained some valuable information, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow, and make sure to leave a comment on what else you would need to know or what you want us to dive into.
Don't forget to subscribe, join the ride, Real Estate Real Talk, your guide worldwide.